Hello, welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about things you may not have heard about so much. We're slicing, we're dicing, we're chopping it up. Over to you, Dave.
Well, Gavin, I have to say thank you very much for putting my full name and your full name in there. That was kind of a ballsy move, if you ask me. And hopefully, the people that listen to this don't have too thin a skin. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that what's going around the world. I mean, you look at who's got the thinnest skin in the game? Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong Un, Donald Trump, or the Cairo Airport Authority. And a
Jeez.
week ago, I would have said probably not the latter, but it probably is the latter based on what's gone on in the last week.
So maybe we'll cut that out in post. On that note, I just want to say, why is the Cairo Airport Authority in the news at all? Why should I
Oh
care
boy.
what's going on with the Cairo Airport Authority?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, our podcast is called On the Fringe, and this is one of those topics that is pretty far out there. And this has been something that's very surprising to me. And on occasion, I follow a blog called 1 Mile at a Time. And I've actually gotten some really good deals on getting stuff through Amazon on this and figured out how to book trips using points and miles. And want to give a quick shout out. Thank you, Ben, for setting this up however long ago. I've been following it kind of off and on for a while. And I just happened to check it a couple days ago. And the guy who set this blog up is basically in trouble with the Egyptian authorities because he posted about why he does not like the Cairo airport. And according to him, he was saying that the Cairo airport, quote, is there a worse major airport than the Cairo airport? And it kind of rustled some feathers over in Egypt along the Nile. And
That's where
probably
Egypt.
didn't help that he was going to Ethiopia from Egypt. If you
It
go back
also,
a couple of
yeah,
weeks, uh huh.
no, sorry. It also didn't help that he filed the blog post from Addis International Airport.
No, that did not help at all. That was probably not the kindest way to do it. He just rubbed a bunch of salt and squeezed a lemon into the eye of the Cairo Airport Authority, and I don't think they took very kindly to it. I
So,
probably wouldn't either.
what was the reaction, Dave?
Well, the reaction was kind of strange and hilarious at the same time. And I'm saying this because I don't really have any plans to go to Egypt. But they basically took CCTV footage of this guy and they tried to refute every single one of his claims about the Cairo airport that, the staff is not very nice and the people want tips and it's not very clean and it's just not a good place. And, he's comparing it to Singapore and to some of these other airports that are, quote, 5 star by Skytrax, and Cairo is not quite 4 stars, according to the Cairo Airport Authority and according to Skytrax. So they're kind of
Oh,
saying, well, we're good, but we're not really
according to
good.
Skytrax, Dave, according to Skytrax, Cairo is a three.
It's not quite 4.
It's
So,
according to according to the CAA. I have students just like this, Dave. I have students just like this. They say, "Oh, I almost got 100." I say, "You got an 89."
yeah, yeah, you didn't
I
quite cut the mustard.
didn't quite do it. You know, as two fellas, we don't have a lot of skin in this game. I don't go through Cairo on a regular basis. I'm sure I've been to worse airports. I'm sure I've been to better airports. But this seems like a massively counterintuitive move on the part of the CAA, who maybe are used to dealing with domestic whistleblowers in this way. But this does not really track internationally where you're going. Have you ever heard of the Streisand effect? You just shone a massive light on the problems that you have for no real reason. You could have let this guy go. You could have left a few nasty reviews on the blog. That's what it's there for.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have just said, well, this is what we got, and we got to move on, and maybe we've learned a thing or two. Instead, they're trying to bring him up on criminal charges. They're saying he was paid by foreign powers to subvert Egypt, all these sorts of ridiculous things. And in all the CCTV footage that they've published, they really don't show him doing anything, which they claim helps bolster their argument that he wasn't hassled in any way. But as the guys pointed out, he's not saying he was hassled. He's saying that the airport just isn't that good. And I think the interesting thing for me is I've read that review. He's just sort of saying, for such a big hub, why isn't this airport better? He's not
Yeah.
he's not saying it's a shit airport. He's not saying it's the worst airport in the region, which, since the region is North Africa, would be really hard to do. What he is saying is, look, this is a big hub. They've got lots of business. They're trying to be competitive internationally, and yet everyone's asking for tips. It's not as fast as it could be. Lounges aren't that great. And, it could just be an overall better experience.
Well, and too, adding to that, I mean, Egypt has a large chunk of its tourists fly through Cairo airport. Yeah. So you would expect a country like Egypt. I mean, Bangkok has problems with its airports. Suvarnabhumi is a nightmare, and the other Don Mueang airport's a mess too. It's gotten a lot better, but a lot of these international tourist hubs, I mean, Bali isn't great. KL isn't great. A lot of these places have airports that are not the best in terms of inviting tourists and inviting people in. And they could look at this and go, okay, we can turn this airport into something that is going to be better. We can look at this exactly like you're saying and go, this is a challenge. We've got to accept it, rather than going, oh, our airport's really good. Go like, yeah, it's maybe not the best airport. And it's got to be very, very painful for them to have to deal with this. But it's one blogger from the US who has quite a small following. And I think it's much more of a niche in terms of people that actually read this guy's blog. And this isn't something that's going to be on mainstream, CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or anything like that.
But I'm
now it's more likely to be,
exactly,
because it's blown up. And this has gone completely out of proportion.
Blew the story up, and they really, I think, had no reason to do that. But I hate to say this, those countries up in North Africa, maybe not Libya, but definitely Tunisia, definitely Algeria, these are countries where you do a small thing, people overreact, because domestically they can get away with it. Internationally, it scans badly. And you have to go, this guy was not attacking the spirit. But again, it's also, this is not aimed at an international audience. They're not doing this to attract tourists, obviously. They're doing this for a domestic audience because they need people to be rah-rah right now. They need people to be supportive of the regime. And here you have a case, a foreigner comes in, he's in the airport for 6 hours, he says it's shit, he's terrible. And that's a simple narrative that you can feed to people, and they're going to go, the government, they're doing the right thing. But that's going to fade away.
Keys to that.
That's going to fade away. And in the meantime, your airport is not getting better.
In the big scheme of things,
getting better.
Yeah. In the big scheme of things, it doesn't really matter if you have a good airport or if you have a bad airport. It's got to be very functional. But I think had he not posted from Addis Ababa, and had he not clearly shown, oh, I'm flying to Addis Ababa from Cairo airport, this whole thing wouldn't have blown up, just because of the spat that's going on right now between Egypt and Ethiopia. And if you're interested in that, we've done a couple of episodes about this. And this is something that is going to continue to fester in East Africa and in the Horn of Africa. But 100%. This is just more fuel on the fire. And this is something that's completely unrelated. And Egypt is now making this look, it's making itself look like it just has no idea what it's actually trying to accomplish with Ethiopia, and with actually trying to project itself as a regional power in North Africa.
Yeah. And this is, I think you're absolutely right. I think this is an outpouring of national sentiment, and I think it has a lot to do with the Ethiopian-Egyptian power struggle at the moment. And I think
Hmm.
it has to do with the kind of heightened uh, national mood that Egypt is currently experiencing between the conflict in Gaza and what's going on in the Horn. This is a pretty tense place. And it's also not surprising that they would be sensitive about this because, as I think you alluded to, this is a country that's very dependent on tourism. They're very dependent on people coming in and spending money. They're having, they have had problems in the past with various security concerns that people have. The fact that the neighborhood is not always the best. Right now, all of that is ramped up. They are having economic problems. They are having problems bringing people in, even though they've expanded. They're bringing in more Asian tourists than they used to. But it's a very heightened national mood, and I think this reflects that the fact that they've blown this thing up, which really, again, just get a couple people to post some nasty things on the guy's blog. That's the end of the story, I think, as
Hmm.
far as most people would be concerned. But in the current tension, this is not going to happen.
No, it's not. It's just going to fester and continue to get worse. And I mean, you said yesterday when we were talking about this a little bit, this made national news in Egypt. And I think putting this up as a national issue, I mean, it's going to blow up all over the Middle East. It's going to blow up all over the Arabic speaking world. And it's going to eventually, work its way around, to other countries and other parts of the world. And okay, now this is just another thing. If you go to Egypt, you can't say anything bad about the airport. You can't say anything bad about other things that, you may think that are different between Egypt and your country. And it's going to probably stop a lot of people from going, where they're going to be afraid of, okay, what can I actually do in Egypt when I'm there? What am I allowed to say? How am I allowed to behave? And it's not going to help their tourism industry. It's not going to help their economy. And it
Not at
just putting them on the back foot to now they're going to have to continue to push the domestic audience to support the government. I don't see this as being beneficial for anybody in the whole entire country or the region.
No. And, if someone from the Ministry for State Security is listening in, uh, we really want the best for Egypt. We want the best for its people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Most
we,
definitely.
we want the best for its tourist economy and we want the best for its airport. But this is just not the way to do it, fellas. It's real heavy handed. And it feels like something that's going to get out of your control real fast. And
Mm-hmm.
who knows? It's entirely possible that maybe there were people who overreached themselves. Maybe they're being told to stand back, but who knows? It's entirely possible that this continues to sort of get blown out of proportion. And I think on that note, we'll wrap up our Egypt segment.
Yep. We'll call it a night. So
We'll
thank you
call it,
guys for listening.
yep.